evening and welcome. I'm Hailey Coxon. This is Mountain Memories on the Spirit of Motorsport TV. Good evening, everybody. The boys will be joining us once again very soon, but thank you to anyone that's tuned in already. If someone's forgotten that you know might enjoy this program, make sure you tag them in, share it with your friends. And remember, this is a live show where you can interact with us. So please do share your comments. We love to hear from you, where you are in the world, where you're listening from, where you're watching from, and also any questions that might pop up in tonight's interview or chat. Please do share away. We do have a special guest joining us very soon, but please do remember, interact, say hello, say good evening, and thank you anyone that's joined us so far. We love and appreciate our regulars, so thank you, Gail Core. It's wonderful to hear from you. Have a great show, guys. Looking forward to it. Phil Nelm saying hurrah, here we go. Carolyn Ferris saying good evening all. Looking forward to another great evening. Share to other sites. Thank you, Carolyn. Really appreciate your support. And Andy Karush, good evening to you, and Brian Spooner too. Thank you, loyal followers and supporters. We appreciate you. So keep sharing away, guys, and enjoy the show. Now this evening, joining us, we have a tremendous racer and human being. He's got quite the story to tell. But before we do invite our guest in this evening, let's welcome our boys in, shall we? Mr. Roy Moore and Barry Wood.
Evening, campers. Oh, there's Barry. There he is, the land of the rising sun. You look like the Japanese flag there, Barry. It must be, the sun must be streaming through the back window, is it?
There's a technical issue. I'm hearing two voices at different times.
Oh,
See,
dear me. Am I talking to you now? Technical issue. Oh, dear me. Oh, there we go.
Out with him. He's got looks like a beautiful evening where he is on the island, Roy.
It's been a funny, not so bad at all. It's been a funny day. We woke up to snow, would you believe? Quite a bit in certain parts of the island. I'm sure the clerk of the coast would have had a bit of a decision to make if he'd have got reports from the travelling marshals on the way around with a few bits of snow here and there. But it's bitterly cold, but yeah, it's been a funny one today. But then again, isn't life funny at the moment with all the things that are going on? Even over here in the Isle of Man, we're very comparable to what you're like in England at the moment. Restrictions. Barry's not getting up the manor for his pint on a Saturday night, so that's making him a bit stroppy. And then if he gets technical issues, he's going to be even worse. But I'm sure it will be resolved. And absolutely delighted that you secured the services of Chris Mitchell tonight. Certainly goes back a few years. But then again, when you're talking about memories, that's what you usually have to do when you're talking to people that you can recall all how it happened, how all it unfolded, and how it came about that he made his debut in the Manx Grand Prix. And I'm sure he's going to be absolutely delight to listen to. Again, on this system that we employ here, it's not us talking, we're hanging about and we might ask a few questions and stuff like that. The whole centre of the shows are the guests, and I must congratulate you. The other night I tuned into the boys from the Formula One, and that just struck a chord with me, because they talked like we talk about what it was like and what happened and how they had little schemes going on to do stuff, and the adulation of the crowd. And that's how it was with the TT, to be fair, in the time that we got involved with it. And you never forget that. And it's always nice to kind of recall certain things and bits and pieces. And yeah, so that's it. So
that's why we love this platform so much, don't we? It gives us the opportunity to tap into those untold stories of the commitment to that revved up lifestyle. Because there's, you know, when you commit to this kind of lifestyle, there's all sorts of risks, aren't there? There's, as Chris is going to share his story later, and to live and commit to that lifestyle, there's got to be laughter, there's got to be banter, there's got to be wind-up merchants, and they're everywhere, aren't they? But like you say, it doesn't matter what pocket of motorsport you're in. Everybody's keeping everybody going with that humor and the family aspect as well by sticking together.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing about it, and I think it was like kind of like Formula One in those days. I don't think it's like Formula One these days. Maybe the TT is not lost too much in the fact that there's people up on the line when they're about to set off down Bray Hill and stuff like that, and it's you maybe have to pay for it these days, but you wouldn't get anywhere near a Formula One grid in any respect unless you were high ranking. But going back to when it was a bit more casual, to be fair, well then, yeah, this is the way you remember it. The only time some of the riders were really serious is when they were pushing the bike up from Park Ferme onto Glencrutchery Road. And they had to set to and do what they were doing. It was their job. When you think about it, I mean, riding in the TT races, as George Formby would have sung, it was their job. It was their living, and it was the Isle of Man in June, and then it would be the Dutch TT after, and prior to that, it would have been probably in Ireland for the Ulster, and they went round, and it was affectionately known as the Continental Circus. And again, it's been a delight on our site to see photographs of that, traveling around in an old Ford Thames van and using it to sleep in and to do everything. And Martin Bullock touched on it last time we were on, wasn't it, about the paddock and all the banter that went on in that particular area. And it got serious at times because obviously if things weren't going right mechanically, then it was a bit of a stressful period of time. And I don't think anybody gets away with not having mechanical problems at some time during the trips round. But certainly it's been good to recall it all. And it's been an absolutely delight to hear some of the stories that have emerged. Unfortunately, we're not in a position to use them at the moment with no TT till 22, but certainly they're all noted down there for future reference.
I'm just going to share some comments here, Roy. We've got Pete Forsyth saying good evening, all looking forward to this one. Pat Sling, good evening. Pat saying good evening to Hailey and Roy. Phil Nelms is saying a whole year revolves around the TT. Russ is saying tell Barry to shut the lid of his scanner. John Kashirski says good afternoon from America. Now, Roy, I do want to just touch back on the link between it's the nostalgia and the reminiscing of back in those days with the Formula One guys the other night, and then relating it to the TT. We've got to touch on, we've not really mentioned him much, but the success of John Surtees on the 2 and the 4 wheels.
Yeah, well, that's a whole thing. I mean, you mention the name and you immediately think, prior to getting the MV ride, he was Norton and God, I think he rode a Vincent and rode in the sidecar with his father, Jack, at Brands Hatch in that part of the world that they were. And he arrived on the island. I think he rode Norton when he first came over here, but once he got the MV, there was only one thing that you waited for on that particular occasion, and that was the sound. Gilera MV probably first. And again, from my point of view, and we have explained it a few times, we were staying with an auntie at Governor's Bridge, and we were unsure why we were there, but we were. And early morning practice, standing up there. They're actually building a new old people's complex there at the moment, but round about there was like the old grandstand for Cunningham's camp. They had a special grandstand just on the exit from the dip, and it was your thing. You'd hear them set off from the start, and you'd hear them probably out to Union Mills, maybe going up Ballahutchin, and then it would go quiet as they went out, depending on where the sound was coming. But then when you heard John Surtees heading down the mountain from probably Kate's Cottage, the changes down through the box for Craignabar, and then hearing him going up through the box down to the tight left-hander at Brandish, not the big sweeping curve it is now, and then you knew they were on their way. And a good spot was Governor's Bridge, because you could hear them signpost, then they would be braking for Bedstead, then up through the box again, down through it for the Nuke, down into the Nuke, and then he'd be there at Governor's Bridge. And coming out of the dip, the sound of the MV and John Surtees on it. John Hartle, he got involved with the MV as well in the early days, and certainly that was always about it. And then you followed their careers, didn't you? You felt as though you got the impression that John Surtees had it a little bit easy with his dad backing him, and then the MV was a bit superior, and in certain respects, you know, the Jeff Duke gave him a good run on the Norton, mind you, before he went to Jalera. But again, that was another thing that you're associated, Reg Armstrong, Jeff Duke, and you could look out or listen to the sound of them. The Guzzies being singles were not quite as entertaining as the four cylinders. And you followed their career, and they went on, and yeah, I don't think that's going to ever be beaten, is it?
No.
A world champion on 2 and 4 wheels. I know Rossi's a bit of a hot man in a car and can drive them, but I don't think the opportunity would be there now for him to do it. And certainly John Surtees, a legend in every respect. And the
that
memories
level as well from both, you know, the TT. It's just, I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be seen again at all. We've got quite a few comments here about poor Barry. So
Barry's stressed out.
Evening, everyone. Then we've
Barry's
got
back.
Right saying, put Barry on now. I found my sunglasses. Good evening,
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Welcome.
We can hear you, Barry. We can hear you. We've missed you.
Thank the good Lord for that.
We got the Sun 100 Supporters Club saying, come back, Barry. You were missed. Thank goodness you're with us. Looking great as well.
I missed you terribly.
We've got Neil Ronan here saying, looking forward to hearing Chris Mitchell, an absolute star, showing that almost anything is possible if you're determined to do so. Yeah, before we invite Chris on then, Barry, welcome to you. It's going to be a pretty special show, isn't it? It's yourself that suggested getting in touch with him. So tell us a bit more about why you threw him into the mix.
Just what Chris achieved was exceptional. And I know a while back we put some photographs on of Chris and a little bit of dialogue. And there was a great interest from people at the time, asking more and more questions and wanting to know more. And I thought, well, a lot of people have heard of Chris and what he's done, but they have never had a chance to, maybe you don't even know what he looks like, or certainly you've never been in a situation where you could ask him all the questions you would like answers to. And I thought, well, this is the ideal medium to do that. And it's funny, really. I didn't know Chris for a long time because I didn't go to the Derby races for many years. And then it came to pass, I had a taxi job in Ramsey every day at the same time. And every day at the same time, this fella used to walk up from Ramsey Hairpin up around the waterworks with his arm in a sling. And I thought, that poor fella must be off work, must be fell and broke his arm, you know. I see him every day, and then I'd start to nod to him and that, but I didn't have a clue who he was. And I was telling somebody, one of my mates from Ramsey, he's a fellow walks up every day, he must have had a fall or something. That's Chris Mitchell. That was how I first got to recognise him. And then, of course, when he came to do the Manx, I got to know him a lot better. But I figured there would be a lot of people would have all sorts of questions for him. Not necessarily all that you read, you know, but this is the ideal chance to meet the man and speak to him.
Absolutely, yes. We've had some comments here, Barry. We've got Ralph and Julia Krellin. This is for you. Tell Barry it's the wrong time of day for the House of the Rising Sun.
We've had dialogue on this, but
Andy Curry says, have you moved to Peel, Barry? That's one heck of a sunset you've got there. It's not the same in Onken. All right. So, right then, boys. So should we invite the great man himself, Mr. Chris Mitchell, into the studio? So Chris is a traumatic brachial plexus survivor, has conquered the TT course, and is now living with a spinal cord injury and still loving the two-wheeled fix. So tonight he's joining us to share his story so far, and how he's quite adjusted really to continue to going out there racing and cycling around the island as well. So Mr. Chris Mitchell, welcome to the studio. Good evening.
There he is.
Thanks very much. It's an absolute pleasure. How you doing? Yeah, good to see you. Absolute pleasure, I say. Yeah, thanks for inviting me on. Funny hearing that story, Barry. That was the beginning of my fitness routine. Was the walking up to. I used to walk up to Joey's every day in my lunch hour. So I was working, but I used to manage to do 4 miles in the hour. So I try and make it hard for myself, and I'll just go straight up the mountain from Ramsey. So I'd go up round the gooseneck, and walk up to Joey's, and turn around, go all the way back again. And that was sort of how I started to try and get myself fit for the racing. Which eventually I decided that walking wasn't quite cutting it, so that was when I got into cycling. I made it really hard for myself, started mountain biking. But thanks for it's an absolute pleasure.
Well, I was knackered watching you every day walking up there, to be honest with you. when I realised it was you racing, I thought we certainly got a lot of dedication. I mean, every single day you were up there doing it. I was all right. I was driving. You were doing the hard bit. A few years ago now too.
I suppose, Chris, for those who aren't aware, Chris, for those of you unaware, how it all came about that you had this condition. It was kind of riding round the mountain course as well before you even did it competitively, but it was an incident up at the 33rd.
It was the 26th, some people think, well, a lot of people thought I did it when I was racing, and it wasn't racing. It was I was just out on my bike enjoying the sunshine. It was actually on Mad Sunday, so came a Mad Sunday statistic.
Seem to have a few problems there, Chris. We're not quite getting you through as clear as it was when we were doing the test. You seem to be breaking up a bit. Is that a fact, Hailey? Is it?
It is. Have some Wi-Fi issues there up in Ballaugh.
Well,
hopefully
understandable, really, isn't
it? Hopefully we can get that ironed out. So we've got some comments here, though. Let's just share them with you. We've got Southern 100 supporters evening. Barry, welcome. We've got Bill Davies saying, come on, Barry, we fix it out, man. Everyone's really happy to see you. John Kraszewski says you can send some help. So
I'm glad everybody enjoyed the pre-program entertainment. Oh, he's Chris back.
Ah, great.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah,
brilliant.
we're a bit more hopeful now, Chris.
Yeah, just staying as still as possible, I think, and then it'll try and play with you. I think it'll try and support you. Good evening, Simon Heath. Okay, carry on though, Chris. You were telling us your story.
So I was out riding with my friends. It was a Mad Sunday. I had a Yamaha R1 at the time. And I think I thought I was the next Dave Jeffries at the time. He was my hero, as well as Joey Dunlop. We were just out doing laps as you do. The sun was shining, things were going great, and then I've no idea. I don't know what happened, but obviously somehow made an error or got it wrong. Thankfully, there was only me involved, and I lost control. As I say, it was on Joey's 26th milestone, and I went from very quickly from being riding my bike, lots of engine noise, to complete silence, and being wheeled into an ambulance. And they were doing all the normal checks to see how things were, and obviously I wasn't in great condition. But the thing that I can remember immediately was this absolute chronic pain, which was coming around about from my shoulder area, and I couldn't move my left arm. And the ambulance crew were, you've probably done your collarbone, don't worry about it. We'll get the blue lights on and get you to hospital as soon as possible. Which is what they did. So I was kind of in and out of consciousness, not looking too good. I'd managed to actually tore my spleen as well, so I was losing blood internally, and that was the main concern at the time. But anyway, I got into the hospital, and as I say, because it was TT week, they had a lot of trauma doctors who'd been flown over from the UK or around the world. And this one particular doctor saw me, and he pretty much straight away knew that I'd damaged my brachial plexus nerves, which was a word that I'd never heard of before. And basically what it is the brachial plexus is the group of nerves that comes straight from the spinal cord, and they travel down into your arm and your hand, so that when you say, I want to move my hand, then it sends that message to the muscle, and it makes it move. But in my case, I'd actually ripped these nerves directly out of the spinal cord. So there's 5 major nerves, and we didn't know the complete story at the time, but after lots of scans and stuff, it turned out I just ripped these nerves out of my spinal cord. So it wasn't looking great for my left arm. Straight away, the doctors were talking about, you're probably looking at amputation, and worst case scenario. It was all a bit of a whirlwind. I think at one point I thought, I didn't even think the doctor was talking to me. I thought, surely not. Like half an hour ago, I'm out riding my bike and having a great time, and suddenly, bang! Everything's turned upside down. But anyway, so a couple of 2 or 3 months down the line, I was immediately sent to Stanmore Hospital in London, and they booked me in for surgery to see if they can repair the nerves. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It usually just depends on how much damage you've done. So they sort of plug the nerves back in, and a bit of super glue and what have you, and stitch me back up again. And then it was a case of just wait and see, and the nerves repair at a very slow rate. I think it's something like 1 millimeter a day or something like that. So it takes an awful long time for these nerves to grow and repair. And unfortunately, in my case, it wasn't successful. So after about 5 years, I was then pretty much knew that my arm wasn't going to work again. So it was just a case of picking things back up again and getting on with it. You've got 2 options, haven't you? I was still hugely missing. Well, I mean, I wasn't, suddenly went from riding my bike all the time to not being able to ride my bike at all. And that went on for, as I say, 5 or 6 years. I could hear my mates going out on a Sunday, and, hearing the tales of how much fun they were having on the course. And it was just soul destroying. But, by that time, I mean, this is 20 years ago as well. So, the internet started to take off. So then I was doing a lot of research online, and got in touch with the guys at the NABD, National Association for Bikers with a Disability. And there was stories of guys, people who learned to ride again with one arm, and the adaptations that you could do to your bike to enable you to carry on riding. So that was gave me great hope, really. So it was just a case of finding a way around of doing my adaptations, that what I would need. It was fairly simple with me. Because my right arm still works, then the throttle doesn't need to be changed. That can stay as it is. It's just a case of moving the clutch lever over to the right hand side. Basically give me 2 levers, leave the brake where it is, so that I never get confused when I need to brake sharply, and just have an extra lever on the right hand side, which is, you know, to operate the clutch. So I got in touch with a guy from Lonnon. I've just completely forgotten his name now. He'll come back to me in a second. Anyway, he's a really good engineer, and he's got lots of tooling equipment and stuff, lathes and stuff in his back garden. And he was, you know, he said, yeah, it's, you know, it can be done, no problem. Just sort of leave it with me. So I went and bought myself a 600, got an R6, and took it around and let him work his magic. And within a few weeks, he'd you know, turned it around and gave me something that I could have a go at. So then it was just a case of, you know, starting slow and take my time, see how it goes, and you know, that was the beginning of it, really. You know, quite quickly I sort of felt quite comfortable on the bike. You know, everybody says, well, how do you cope with balance and all the rest of it? But once you get up to 10, 20 mile an hour, you know, the bike pretty much keeps itself up. You just got to start it and stop it at the right times. So yeah, I rode for about two years, I think, just back on the roads again. And some of my mates were going away and doing a track day at Alton Park, and I absolutely, you know, was dying to go with them. And so that's basically what I did. We rode over and booked myself into the track day at Alton Park, just in the novice group, and had a word with one of the instructors there, just to sort of say, you know, look, I've got this disability, and, you know, and it straight away it was like, we're fine, you know, we've seen lots of guys with one arm or leg or whatever missing, you know, don't worry about it, just take your time and go and have a go. And he took me around a few laps and sort of guided me around, and, you know, I felt pretty comfortable fairly quickly. I love the circuit. It's one of my favorite circuits, Alton Park. And by the end of the day, you know, I pretty much progressed from novice into the faster group. And I remember coming home and just thinking, do you know what? I think I could have a go at racing. You know, I don't see why not. You know, give it a crack anyway. So that was when I got in touch with Andreas Racing Association and just sort of said, you know, I'm this one-armed guy who fancies having a go at a bit of club racing, and, you know, what do you think? And they said, well, have you got yourself a bike? I said, yeah. So they said, just come on down and we'll give you like an assessment around the track, you know, give me just see how it goes, which is what I did. And, you know, before you knew it, I had my novice race license, and I was going around in an orange bib and getting stuck into it. First year was really hard in the 600 class. That is like the, you know, they call it the axe murderers class, don't they? It's super competitive. You know, I was on track with the likes of Dan Neen, Ryan Neen, Mark Madsen Migdal. There's some really, really fast lads, and basically was getting my arse kicked. So I did that for about a year, just kind of getting my eye in, really, and getting comfortable. And by the end of that year, that was when the Super Twin class started to evolve, and it was like supposedly a cheap way into racing. And you know, it sounded like a good class to get into. Like the bikes aren't super powerful, you know. It should be something that I could handle, and quite light as well. Quite you know, they handle quite well. So by the end of that year, that's pretty much what I did. Dave Moffat, he was doing really good things on this JHS Suzuki Super Twin. So after talking to him, I pretty much bought a very similar spec bike to what he's got from JHS Racing in Bristol. Got that pretty much built for me at my spec. You know, they did the adaptions and everything. And you know, in the winter time, the bike came back over on the steam packet, and then it was a case of designing some paint work, and we came up with the blue and white paint scheme that you've probably seen. which is a bit of a nod to Barry Sheen. Yeah, that's the one. So then I just started to get stuck into this new class, and straight away I just gelled with the bike. It was just so easy to ride, you know, easy power delivery, lots of engine braking because it was a twin cylinder. So, you know, if I had, you know, I didn't always have to actually physically use the brake, you know, that you could just let the engine slow it down, and it was just a lovely bike to ride. So yeah, I was just started chipping away and improve as time went on. I was getting quicker and quicker. I was starting to get upgrade signatures on my license, you know, and it was at that point, well, I'd already started to think about the Grand Prix really, but it was at that point where I started to think, this is going to be a possible, you know, this is hopefully going to be something that I can do. Although all the time, we never really knew how it would go down with the, you know, with the organisation, with the ACU, with the Manx Grand Prix, because nobody's ever done it before. So I just thought, as long as I keep my nose clean, you know, keep a clean race license and just keep out of trouble, then, you know, just see what happens, which is pretty much what I did. And right up until about 6 weeks before the actual first Grand Prix I entered, I didn't really know whether I was going to get in or not. Anyway, I can still remember my mountain course license hitting the doormat, you know, coming through the letterbox, and just such an amazing feeling, you know. It's very emotional, you know, because it was just all those years of hard work, and could still hear the doctor saying, you know, I think your bike riding days are over, you know. And so to be able to achieve what I have achieved, it's just really satisfying. So yeah, I mean, the first year obviously didn't go to plan. 2012, I was absolutely plagued with mechanical problems. You just can't test a bike for how it's going to be ridden around the TT course on short circuits. It's just, you just can't. And straight away I was starting to run into overheating problems all on the long straights that we've got. You know, the bike's flat out for so long. So coming into Sulby Straight, I think on the second lap I think the engine blew up, and thankfully it wasn't far from the pub. So yeah, so that first year just, yeah, it was a nightmare. We rebuilt the engine a couple of times, and by the time, in fact, I think I got a spare engine eventually, and by that time I just ran out of time in practice week and didn't get the laps to qualify. But thankfully, you know, came back the following year and got it done. But I mean, there's lots of in between that. You know, my first road race was on the Southern 100 course, which is obviously an awesome meeting as well. So I used the Southern 100 as a sort of gauge to see physically how I coped with the demands of the road racing. You know, the bumps and the yeah, well, just everything that you can expect. So you know, that was good. I've just always kept in my mind, you know, just don't try and do anything silly. Ride within my limits. I did have a goal for the Grand Prix. Was you know, the cherry on the cake was the 100-mile-an-hour lap. I always hoped that I could do it, and you know, that was something that I achieved in the end.
Incredible, Chris. We're going to come back to that 100-mile-an-hour. I just want to share some of these comments. There's got lots of support here for you this evening. We've got Philip Looney saying inspirational, Chris. We've got Phil Nelm saying good to hear Chris being mentioned or mentioning the NABD. We are both able-bodied but are full members, and Chris is a shining star. Ian Kermode is saying hi all, and Chris, fellow cyclist, I'll see you out soon. Ian, lots of great support. Southern 100 Supporters Club here has got a question. What was that, Chris? The best course on the island, the Southern 100? Is that what you're saying?
It's definitely up there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Inspirational story, hey Barry. Absolutely incredible.
Amazing. I was going to say, Chris, as well, apart from the riding the bike, actually preparing the bike, there must be so many things that you want to do, like even pulling wheels out and stuff like that. Things that you could realistically do no problem, but you hampered. That's supposed to be very frustrating as well. How do you manage that side of it?
Yeah. I mean, I suppose one of my letdowns was that I'm not super mechanically minded, but stuff like changing wheels and changing the oil and the basic stuff I can cope all right. I've got my technique down. There's usually lots of duct tape and cable ties and bits of sponge wedged under things and stuff like that. But there's a way around anything. There's not many things that can beat me. I'm not so good with cling film and not great in the kitchen. I try to stay out of there.
Or even trying to get the bike up through the scrutineering at the Manx and stuff up the ramp. I mean, you need help with that.
Yeah. I mean, I've usually had one of the lads, I've got my brother or one of my mates from the village. I had a good. That's one of the things I should say. Really, I had a really good team around me. I had my family and friends and what have you. And I was never really stuck for help. So it's one of those things that I couldn't have done it on my own. Not a chance. No. Big effort from everybody, and I had so much support and well wishes and. It all helps. In fact, that first year where it went wrong, and I was not ready for the emotional side of it. I was absolutely floored by the end of Grand Prix when I didn't qualify that year. I was just, and I hadn't prepared myself for that. That wasn't really something that I thought of. Being naive, really, but that absolutely knocked the wind out of me. That did. So. Again, to come back the following year and get the job done, that was just, amazing.
Had you raced years ago? Oh, go on, Roy.
No, I was just going to say, like with kind of riding round before your incident, which caused all this, and then when you got out there, obviously you knew your way around, you knew every bit of it. Which was the one or the most kind of frightening part? I mean, as a non-racer, you're thinking, God, going down Bray Hill would be dodgy. Bottom of Bagarrow would be scary. Going through Kirkmichael Village wouldn't be too handy with one arm. Yeah. But where from your point of view were you thinking, bloody hell, this is a bit quick?
I think, like you say, Kirkmichael is one because you've got the buildings either side of you, and it is a great sense of speed going through there, and also you're traveling that fast as well, just trying to get the bike turned from one side to the other, like Quarry Bends as well. I always struggle to get through there just because of the speed that you're carrying. It's just to try and flick the bike from left to right. So like in the newcomers race, it's a 4-lap race, and I always knew that I had to really pace myself and not go too mad at the beginning. I should mention really, I'd started mountain biking as well in preparation to get fit to do the road racing, and I think without doing that, I probably would never have been able to do it. Physically, that was something that that really helped get me through it. But I would say Kirkmichael's definitely one of them. But saying that, I still enjoyed it. It was great fun. Just hard to explain, really.
What part of your body would you have some sensation? Can you use your shoulder to brace yourself on the tank or something like that? Or?
Not really. I've got a little bit of movement from the shoulder, but it's all done with the knees, really. I had the tank pads on the tank, the grip pads, and literally clamped myself into the position with my knees on the tank. Pretty much braced myself in. Didn't use my left arm whatsoever. No, it was all from the core, core strength, which is where the cycling really helps,
Yeah.
especially the mountain bike.
I was reading one time, Chris, you were saying about the jump. You had to watch the jumps. You had to line yourself up exactly straight.
Yeah.
You couldn't afford to make any mistakes on the jumps.
Yeah, I mean, like
amazing.
You can imagine. Yeah, if you imagine Ballaugh Bridge, you know, you're coming in from obviously you're coming in from Kirkmichael. You're absolutely flat out. You've got to get all your braking done. Get down the gearbox, and before you hit that takeoff, you've got to make sure the bike's absolutely level, you know, as straight as you can be, and you've also got to get a little blip on the power as well, just to make sure that you don't land nose first. So yeah, there's always a lot to think about, especially at Ballaugh Bridge. And I was always, because I live in Ballaugh, I knew my mum would be far away, and my mates and what have you. So I knew I had to do a good job over there, and just the Raven pub, and yeah, keep yourself in one piece.
All completely different techniques to what anybody else would ever have to consider, obviously.
I just think I had to ride smooth, just keep absolutely smooth everywhere, you know, not get out of shape. And as much as I'd love to be smoking the rear tire and pulling wheelies everywhere, you know, I just had to just keep it all smooth and behave myself, you know. I just didn't want to get into any bother. As you know, you just can't afford to, you can't make any mistakes around here. So yeah, it's just managed it. I don't know.
If I could just share some more comments, boys. We've got Robbie Lay saying, good man, Chris, watching intently. Emma Limerick says, does Chris still have the Spirit of Derby Award?
Yeah,
That's
I've got it somewhere.
He's behind you. Fantastic. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks, Emma. Right place.
Wonderful, wonderful. And then we've got Bean Mac here saying, Chris, an inspiration to many. I watched him at the Manx Grand Prix, was blown away by his performance. Credit to you, Chris. And then we've got Nigel Cremade saying, hello, folks. And we've got someone from Facebook mentioning the 100-mile-an-hour lap. I take my hat off to you, Chris. Awesome. So let's go on to that then, Chris, if you can. So share the experience of hitting that 100-mile-an-hour mark. I mean, what an incredible achievement.
Yeah, I think so. When I started in practice week, getting some laps under my belt, you know, quite quickly I was sort of up to 90 mile an hour fairly early on, and it was at that point where I thought, I think the 100 mile an hour is going to be possible. Just trying to think where I could get that extra 10 mile an hour from. As I said, I mean, the bike's not super powerful like the Super Twin, mine in particular. It didn't pull great top speed. So I think the top speed it did was maybe 140 mile an hour. So to get a 100 mile an hour average, you know, you've got to be pushing it. But also, as I said before too, you know, just got to keep it smooth. It's hard to explain, really. But yeah, it was, as I say, just as the week went on, just try and build your speed. As the times were coming up all week, and by the time I got to the end of practice week, I think I got a 100 mile an hour lap before the actual race. So I knew pretty well that I could do it in the race. It was a 4-lap race, and the tank I've got on the bike, I've got a big tank on. So I knew that it would do 3 laps on a full tank. So the idea was, the strategy was to go out with a full tank and pit stop on the first lap. So it was just a case of splash and dash, try and keep it to an absolute minimum, and then go out and just knock out 3 laps. And and everything just went to plan. That's exactly what I did. I think I was only in the pits for maybe less than a minute. We just had to put 7 liters of fuel in, which took about 18 seconds, I think, and just get cracking. And yeah, it was, you know, I mean, not just a 100 mile an hour lap. I also I won a replica trophy in the race as well, and I still find it hard to believe, to be honest with you. I can't, when I think what we managed, it's mind blowing. But it never felt, I never felt like I was out of my comfort zone. You know, I just kept everything as smooth as I could. You know, as I say, I don't want to make any mistakes, keep it clean. I think on the last lap, I ran a little bit wide at Sulby Bridge. I was starting to get, you know, my body was starting to get a bit tired, but yeah, just kept it smooth. And yeah, I mean, I had no idea in the actual race what sort of lap times I was doing. But looking back, yeah, I managed to do it. So
just to get the
really,
checkered flag, it must have been very emotional after all what you've gone through, and like you say, what the doctors had said to you. To see that checkered flag must have been amazing.
It was, Barry. Yeah, I was, you know, not afraid to admit that there was a few tears shed under my helmet, and coming back into the pits to see my family, and you know, just it's hard to describe it really, but it was extremely satisfying as well, just to be able to, you know, the course which had taken my arm and caused me a lot of pain every day, you know, to be able to sort of stick one back at it, and also the doctor that also said my biking days were over, and you know, just really satisfying.
That's what I mean.
It was very emotional, and it didn't take me long before I got into the beer tent though. Once I put my bike away, and celebrations started. But yeah, it was good.
Roy, in your experience in the Manx Grand Prix and the TT, to see Chris achieve what he's achieved is a pretty special story to watch unfold, isn't it?
It certainly is, and it goes back to, like, I mean, when you look at the photographs of Chris with the bike, that there was no shortage of sponsors, and in the early days, I think the supporters club, didn't they? Andy Finley and Kevin Collier and Stu Baker, they were involved in doing bits and pieces. The first, when you think about it, the first time that I ever saw anybody riding a motorbike racing with one arm, I've only ever been to Aintree once, the circuit in Liverpool, outside Liverpool there, and we just pulled into the car park and we're getting sorted out, and this fella went past genuinely with just one arm, riding with his right hand, and I just couldn't believe it. You know, that A, they were allowed to race like that, and then B, but once you got established in there and saw how he was, it was exactly the same as watching you, Chris. You know, the confidence, and we had the benefit. I think, remember, we were up, I think we had the video camera going, and we took a little video of all the things that you had to do with inside. You were going up through scrutineering, and I just had a quick word on you and got the camera down. I can't find where it is now, which is typical in our house. Like, but at the same time, it was so kind of thing, and it your kind of story, saying the surgeon said, it's not like unlike Ian Hutchinson, is it? You know, the doctor said, well, we'll just take that off, and then you'll be all right, and then he comes back to be a TT winner again. I mean, it's just incredible. And disappointment of not doing it the first year, and then the high elation. And was that it? Did you feel as though once you'd achieved it, you didn't want to go out again and have another dabble at it?
So I did that year. I had two races in the Grand Prix. I had the Super Twin race, which came a few days after, which, you know, I think that was red flagged halfway through because of the weather. We had low cloud and mist on the mountain, so it got stopped and restarted. So I felt like I never really got going in that one, but I got a race finish, which was fine. And so we got to the end of that year, 2013, and I decided to have another crack at it in 2014. So did a few of the rounds, you know, Andrix racing, and I think I did the Southern, the post TT and the Southern. I think I did, as I usually do, just as a bit of preparation for the Grand Prix. but unfortunately, the mechanical gremlins cropped up again in the Grand Prix, and I never qualified in practice week. I did a couple of laps and just ended up the engine started going again, and I managed to get a replacement engine in the end. But by the time we got to the end of practice week, I just didn't get enough laps in. So that was the last year I did the Grand Prix. I did another club race around Derby actually, just in September I think that year. But I was already starting to think, you know, I've done what I wanted to do. I'm sure I could go a little bit quicker, but you know, it starts to get a little, you know, possibly pushing the realms of what's you know, possible. And also the conversation with the wife as well. She was sort of saying, look, you know, you've achieved your dream now, you know, it was getting a hard one to keep pushing. So I decided that was going to be my last year, and called it a day. By that time, I was also getting heavily into the cycling. I was doing a lot of mountain biking and road cycling events with the local clubs. Did the end-to-end a few times as well, and the rode with the Manx Viking wheelers on the island, and also went away for what's it called, the trials for the Olympics. So I went away to Manchester, rode around the velodrome there, and did some power tests with the British cycling team. So I was already starting to think more about cycling than I was the motorbikes by that point, and I just thought, you know, you've got to be fully committed, and just thought it's a good time to hang my leathers up really, which is what I did. I've still got my bike. My bike's sat in the garage, but yeah, it's just pedal power now, and not engines, I'm afraid. But nice to say I've ticked that one off the list, and as I say, it's really satisfying to be able to do it. But yeah.
When you were getting ready, Chris, to do the Manx at the first time, compared to normal circumstances, did you do most things, or what sort of training did you do? Like when you would come up to do the Manx, because
yeah, I was riding outdoor. I was riding mountain biking regularly, with a local club, and doing some indoor training as well. I do a lot of structured training on a platform called Zwift, which is it's an indoor online cycle platform, and you can do various racing on there, and you can do structured training as well. But it's a good way of gauging how your fitness and ways of improving your fitness. So by the time I was doing the Grand Prix, I wasn't doing so much walking. It was pretty much all cycling, and that was, as I say before, without the actual mountain biking, I don't think I'd have been able to race around the TT course. So that was something really good to do, and it's something that I continue doing now. Something I've learned to really love. So yeah, it's been good.
I guess when you said sorry, Barry, the control was predominantly through your legs with the cycling, that's where all the power is going, isn't it? And that's where all your strength is building. So it's great.
And also with riding off road as well, it's mountain biking. You're using more of your upper body than you know. It's not just your legs. So that was a really good way of getting building up my core strength. Yeah, it's really good.
And to you, Barry?
I was going to say you're a hell of a man. There was a photograph recently of you on the push bike coming up Faulty Will, and it was painful to look at. Yeah. How does he do that?
Some of the I mean, the cycling on the island is, you know, we've produced a few champions, haven't we, from the Isle of Man? So it's a great training ground. It's tough, you know. You're either going straight up or straight down. So it's a good place to build up your strength and your fitness. But yeah, it's not pretty. Like some of the climbs, Probably look like I'm about to explode. But yeah.
Well, what modifications did you have to make to the mountain bike? Obviously, you've got gears and you've got brakes, and you've only got the one operation. Is everything on the right-hand side as well with that?
Yeah, similar to the motorbike. So I've got my brakes linked on the right-hand side, so I can operate front and rear brake, and my road bike's electronic shifting as well. So it's literally just a click of a button, and the gears change automatically, electronically, and it's quite easy to set it up all on the one side. Similar with the mountain bike, it's just a case of flipping the lever from the left-hand side, the brake lever, over to the right-hand side. And with a mountain bike, you don't have a front derailleur, so that doesn't need a lever either. It's all done on the rear derailleur. So yeah, it's just a case of figuring it all out and having a go at it. But it's amazing what you can do, like, if you put your mind to it.
You still get round for the odd lap on the road.
Yeah, on the motorbike, or
yeah.
I've not ridden the motorbike now for about 4 years, I think. I've let a tax go on it, and it needs a few jobs doing to it, so I haven't done. But I keep looking at it and thinking, yeah, I could give it a quick tidy up and get it back out there. But yeah, I've not done for a little while. I think since I've raced the TT course, it's not the same when you go out there and you've got, traffic, and I think there's more cars on the road these days as well. So it can be a bit frustrating when you've been used to having the road to yourself pretty much. It's not the same anymore. But
Barry's face, you can relate.
I was just about to say there's too many cyclists around these days.
Yeah.
I won't say that.
Taxi drivers menace, aren't they? Taxi drivers menace, Barry. Cyclists.
Exactly.
They're all over the place. Bloody
just my little joke, Chris.
I'm just going to share these comments with you, boys. So we've got Martin Palmer here saying, Chris, have you done an autobiography? If not, get cracking. I agree. Facebook users saying just amazing. Philip Looney says, I would have thought the heavy braking at the Southern 100 would have been really challenging rather than the faster sections of the mountain course.
Yeah, it was. It is. The Southern 100 course is pretty much a triangle, isn't it? So you've got lots of flat out straights where you're full throttle coming into 90-degree or even more right hand corners. So yeah, it's all about getting on the brakes and getting the bike stopped as quick as possible. I was actually quite good on the brakes, to be honest with you. A lot of people were surprised how well I could get the bike stopped. And by the time we got my bike ready for the Grand Prix, we've got a few tricks with the gears, which we had blip shifters and quick shifters and stuff like that. So I was having to I could get away with just using the gear shift pedal without having to use the clutch, and the bike was doing it all for me, sort of thing. So yeah, didn't do too badly really. Apart from the last race at the Southern, I crashed out. That was 2014, just before the Grand Prix. Obviously, it wasn't my fault. Somebody went down in front of me into the first corner, and there's about 4 or 5 of us went down. But yeah, no, I could get it stopped pretty well for the corners. Didn't do too badly, but you just got to grip the tank like for grim death with your knees and hang on there. But yeah, wasn't too bad.
We've got Mr. Jock Bell in the house. He's joined us 3.5 hours ahead in Kabul. He's saying, I recall a Guinness and Raven the night of Chris's 100-mile-an-hour lap. just a pint of Guinness, probably 2 or 3.
Yeah, we did 1 or 2, I think. Yeah, I think we had a couple that night. But yeah, no, Jock was a great help for my efforts in the Grand Prix. He was always there. He always helped a hand or lent me his van or was there for a few pints afterwards. So yeah, good man, Jock. Good to hear from you.
We've got Martin Palmer saying he's a legend. Seamus Rice saying absolutely amazing. Phil Nilm saying a Chris Mitch named corner, please. That's a great one. I like that. So you get implanted. Charles Hull saying more power to you, Chris. You are a credit to the Isle of Man. I absolutely agree. Barry Royster, do you have any more questions for the great Mr. Mitchell?
I was just while I'm on here, Chris, I had you used to work down the dairy at one time.
Yeah, I did. So when I had my accident, I was actually working at the Isle of Man Creameries at the time. Well, not at the same time, but my job was at the Isle of Man Creameries. I worked on the factory floor, helped bring the milk in from the tankers and get it pasteurized, and then sort the batches out for cartoning or making cheese out of and stuff like that. I loved it. It was a great job, but the hours weren't great, so there was a lot of shift work. Yeah, and then I had my accident, and it became apparent that I couldn't do that job anymore. It was quite a hands-on job, and it was the guys at the dairy. They moved me into the offices, and that was when I started working in accounts. And from there, I started to train to become an accountant. So that was the beginning of my new sort of career. So yeah, I've got a lot to thank the dairy for. They stuck by me, and
Well, I had George Corkle on the phone the other night, and when I said you were coming on the program, he goes, "Oh, I'll be there. So he was asking for you anyway.
Oh, good man. Yeah, good to hear from you, George. Yeah.
55 years of TT Marshall. He could tell a few stories as well.
Yeah,
George. Good day.
He would come on as well. We wouldn't have to say a word if George come on.
That's the way it should be, Barry, shouldn't it? I mean, it's been an absolute revelation listening. It's not our show. It's the persons or the people that we bring on. And it's a common fact that some days when you want to hear from the person who's on, that other people are yapping and fiddling around and talking and spoiling the job. It's been an absolute delight, Chris, to for you to accept our invitation through the Spirit of Motorsport TV, and for you to come along in such a it's inspirational manner, as I've kind of relived the story of it all. My nephew, you'll know him, Brian Moore. He's based in Germany. He's not in Germany at the moment. I think he's in foreign parts somewhere with the BMW team, doing a bit of testing somewhere in Spain. So he, just before we came on, he sent a little message to wish you all the best, and hope you're keeping well, and to remind him to you. So that was it.
Good man. Good to hear from you. No, it's been an absolute pleasure, Roy, and to talk about the story and hopefully, well, it's just great to bring it all back again, and the memories, and also hear the people's comments and the questions. It's ask me back anytime.
So many people have seen you going past on the bike with the helmet and leathers, but never maybe seen you, never met you. So to get the chance to do this and to be able to ask questions like this, it doesn't really happen anywhere else. So we're delighted to be part of it, certainly.
We got Shu Stelfox here saying, inspiring watching Chris racing at the Manx. We got Stu Day saying, I need to pop my Isle of Man cherry and watch the races there instead of on screen. Yes, you do, Stu. I will see you for Trials Bike Riding next week. Right, Chris, listen, as the boys mentioned, it was an inspirational story, but I think a really, really important one to share. So important for so many out there that might be in a position and feeling that they can't quite go to that stage or that level, and knowing that is absolutely possible. So really, really appreciate you sharing this story. It's what this platform's all about, and it's true spirit of motorsport. So I thank you for that.
Thank you. Thanks again. It's been great. Thank you.
Cheers, Chris.
Cheers, Chris.
I'll second Roy's comments. It was an absolute delight. Brilliant. Chris, take care of yourself. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
We'll speak to you again soon. Boys, special show once again. Absolutely amazing.
We're doing all right, aren't we, Barry? We've had an insight into Mike Hailwood. We had a delightful night tonight again with stories that you just can't relate to, really. So inspirational and it's a fact, isn't it? Whatever you hear on these it's not made up or anything like that.
No,
You can go into your TV and you can watch Billy Monger as another inspirational character as well that's coming through and all that. But just to talk to Chris tonight was delight. And once you finally joined us, Barry, must have gone down quite well.
you don't know what stress is until you've gone through that. But we got here eventually. But no, it's like to say all these people we've had on, whether it's Kenny Arthur, Mick Chatterton, Pat Slynn, Conlaw, Brian Reid, you're getting the real people there, and you can speak to them more or less on a one-to-one, ask you questions. You can read the stories in the glossy magazines, but to get the situation where you can actually virtually meet them, I think is a unique opportunity. And hopefully we can carry on and have many, many more great characters on here as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, boys. That was another wonderful guest recommendation. It was an absolute pleasure, not only meeting Chris, but also seeing you boys again. And Barry,
for half an hour anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
We're just like the old films down in the picture house when you used to go to that. We're the matinee at the end.
Brilliant.
Somebody's meant to play the world. Let's say. Go on, Hailey, sorry.
Yeah.
Lenny urine coming up out of the floor.
Chris is an inspiration. Thank you, Pat Slynn. David Hussein enjoyed the show. Thanks. Lots of great comments. Listen, boys, thank you so much. We will see you once again in 2 weeks' time for another great episode of Mountain Memories.
Very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, boys. Thank you, every single one of you who have commented, who have shared a question with us. We really appreciate your support. So many loyal followers and supporters and viewers joining us again this evening. I absolutely agree with you. That was an enjoyable and incredible and inspirational story told by Chris Mitchell there. It was very special to be a part of. And I'm going to second once again what I said earlier. It really was representing the true spirit of motorsport. And that is absolutely what this platform is all about, and coming together with our Roy Moore and Barry Wood from their Mountain Memories Facebook community. So I'm Hailey Coxon. This was episode 6 of Mountain Memories on the Spirit of Motorsport TV. We will see you once again for the next episode 7 in 2 weeks' time.